my name is Mandy, and I have had a really big desire to share my story with the world. Now, I did start a blog called SCA7throughmyeyes.com, and in there I have shared a lot of the stories of my family members and part of my own. And beyond that, I've been wanting to capture this disease in my life on film, because this disease is so visible. I want to be able to capture that part of the story. So here I am, and I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned throughout this trial in my life. So I have a disease called SCA7. Now, I am assuming that most everyone watching this has not heard of SCA7 before. It is a very rare disease. Very few people have it. I looked up on Google once, and it says something like every 1 in 100,000 people have it. So it's very rare. And SCA stands for spinocerebellar ataxia. So where the spinal cord meets your brain, that part of your brain controls your motor and function abilities. And ataxia, those cells are slowly dying over time, causing a loss of balance and coordination. And then one thing that there's an SCA 1, 2, 3, I think all the way up to like 12 or 13. And so I have 7, and one thing that sets SCA 7 apart from all the rest is that it also affects your eyesight. Not only are you slowly losing your motor and function abilities, but you will also lose your eyesight. So a person with SCA7 will start to develop symptoms of this disease at a certain time in their life. The more severe you have it, the earlier it'll show up and the faster it progresses. The less severely you have it, the later it will show up in your life and the more slowly it will progress. For example, I had a cousin, Lance, and he got it when he was around 6, 7, 8 years old, and he ended up, and it progressed very quickly, and he ended up passing away when he was about 18 or 19 from this disease. Whereas my mom, she didn't start showing symptoms of the disease until she was around 28, and she passed away when she was 54. I think 54. Anyway, so it progressed a lot slower for her. So I have it not as severe. I started showing symptoms when I was around 23 years old. 15 years later, I am 38, and my eyesight is terrible, and same with my balance. So 2 more things about this disease that I want to explain is that 1, it is genetic, meaning you can pass it on to your children. There's a 50% chance of either passing it on. Either they have it or they don't have it. And if they don't have it, they're not a carrier or anything. And so I got this disease from my mom, and she got it from her dad. The second point I wanted to make was that it progresses very slowly, and this is a blessing and a curse. A blessing where towards the beginning of this disease, it progresses so slowly that you're able to have a lot of your abilities and things for a long time, that it really isn't too bad. The bad part is at the end, when things have become so difficult, where many abilities to really move even are hard, yet you're still living. The lingering of that side of the disease is very difficult. So it's a blessing and a curse. Hi. So this disease has been put a whole lot of heart into my life. It is always there, and it's always getting worse. So when I first started showing signs when I was 23, I was starting to lose some of my eyesight, and so seeing the board at school, I was in college at the time, seeing the board was hard, and then seeing far away when you were driving. I wasn't able to drive on the freeway or things where I had to go fast, and so things like that became a lot harder. And then eventually I had to give up my license, and then my balance started getting worse, and so and then it continued to get worse to where I needed help from other people, and then I needed a walker, and it just affects everything you do. And so it's like, it's always there, and it never goes away, and it always gets worse. And so this has obviously been a very hard thing for me in my life. Having this disease and losing my abilities has been very difficult. And but one thing that I've also had to deal with that's been kind of hard is falling. I've had some pretty epic falls. So I have overactive reflexes, which are no joke. So when I fall, it is really big and dramatic because of my reflexes are so off. And so there was one week where I think within the same week I fell twice, and I was in my backyard once. We have an outdoor kitchen, and one of the drawers were open, and I fell into the drawer, and so the drawer hit my neck, and it gave me a big old, really bad bruise on my neck. And then a couple days later, I was doing my dishes in my kitchen, and the dishwasher was open, and I fell over the dishwasher. And my head went over, and it hit the tile. So I had like a big old bump and bruise on my head. And then my arm and leg were all scratched up and bruised from all the dishes and silverware that was in the dishwasher that I fell onto. And so that week I looked pretty beat up. And it's kind of funny because it probably looked like my husband or someone was really abusive. But that's funny because my husband, the biggest characteristic that he has is that he is kind. Anyone who knows him knows how kind my husband is. And he's always so good to me and so kind, and so he would never hurt me, and so I looked awful, so it was kind of funny. But losing those abilities and filing and stuff are hard. But there are 3 things that I wanted to talk about that have been especially difficult for me to live in this disease. And the first one is not being able to drive. So I had to give my driver's license like 12 years ago. So I've had to go 12 years without driving, and that has been extremely difficult. Not being able to drive is like giving up a huge freedom, especially a mother with all these kids. So much of my freedom has been taken there, and that's been difficult. And having to get rides to different things is such a big deal. It's really hard. But I will say one thing I am thankful for, and that is that all the people that have been so willing to help and give me rides, I've been able to spend time with them and get to know them and create relationships with them. And so that is something I'm thankful for. And the second thing I wanted to touch on was not being able to play. So this disease has obviously made playing my ability to play and have fun and enjoy the world a lot harder. Now, growing up, we grew up in a family where we played all the time. That is something I learned to grow to love. And so having that been taken away has been especially difficult for me. For example, this summer we went to the Oregon coast, and I wasn't able to see the beautiful scenery, and they went on a hike, and I tried to go, and it was such a big ordeal. Not even be able to enjoy hikes, that's been hard. Another time we went to Costa Rica, and I was playing in the waves, and they weren't big waves, but with this disease and my lack of balance and coordination, it pretty much drowned me. It was so bad. So I've just not been able to enjoy the outdoors and go out and play like doing that. That is definitely harder. I do have this big old list of if I am healed. Someday if I'm healed, I want to go and do all these things to go and play. I don't want to go work, or I don't want to relax, but I want to go out and play. But one thing again I will say is I am so thankful for all the people who have helped me to be able to play and do things despite it being harder. I really appreciate all those who have helped me in being able to play. The third thing is socially. So this disease that has been hard for me, this disease is obviously, so physically, my physical abilities make social things a lot more awkward, and a lot of times people, they think that when you have physical disabilities, you also have mental disabilities, and so I often get treated like mentally not there, which is hard. But just knowing that like participating in my kids' school activities and sports and things, when I walk in and I have to walk in with my walker and I know all the other people and they're looking at me because I obviously look different, probably weird. And so that's been kind of hard. And then also with your eyesight. So being social, your eyesight is such a big part of it. I always tell people, go into a big room of people or a crowd of people that are, crowd of people, and then try and be social. It is so hard because being social, especially in a crowd that you rely so much on eye contact, body language, so many things. It is very difficult. And so I've actually started to avoid those situations because it just hurts too bad. But again, I just want to say I am thankful for like my husband and others who in those situations have really tried to help me out and tried to help me to be social and have those experiences still, even though I saw this disease. And so, yes, I've had to bear some hard things, but that is one thing I found in my life, is that we can do hard things and still find joy and happiness in our lives. Dealing with this disease, I've definitely had to learn things like taking it one day at a time and also looking for the good. My religion has also helped. I know at times it's awkward to talk about religion, but religion has been such a big part of this journey for me, and it's actually become a big part of who I am. And so I'll talk more about that later, but I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. So at times people have told me I am amazing and things for going through this disease and stuff, and that's very kind, but one thing I do want to make clear is that I am just a regular person. So there's really, I'm really just an average regular person. I have my hard days too. Like I remember there was one time I talked to a friend on the phone and I just complained the whole time, and afterward it was so depressing. And I remember hanging up and thinking, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to complain and look at the bad. And so I really had to make a conscious decision and effort to look for the good and decide to be happy. Also, I take antidepressants to help me to cope with everything and to deal with it. And I just really am just a normal, regular person that has been that has had to deal with some big things. And so if I can do it, you can too, because there's really nothing special about me. There are two things that I wanted to talk about that have really helped me to be able to cope with this disease and to be able to do hard things with a smile and to truly be happy. And the first one is that we are children of God. And first, what that means is that He loves us. Second is what that means is that we have the potential to become like Him. What child doesn't have the potential to become like their parent? So, yes, we have a very, very long way to go. But we do have that potential. That is in all of us. We all have that godly potential in all of us. And then third is that He will be there helping us along. We are studying the Old Testament in our church right now, and we've learned about prophets, Moses, Elijah, and Jeremiah, and a lot of these, when they're first called to be prophets, they say things like, "Why me? I am slow of speech," or "People don't like me," or whatever. But God doesn't say, "Oh, it's okay, you're great, you're wonderful, it'll be okay." He doesn't say that. He says, "I will be with you, and so it's going to be okay." And so I like that, because it's not because we're all great and we're all wonderful, but it's because He will be with us and that He will help us along. Now, one thing about that is that His help does not always seem obvious, but that we need to have that big, broad perspective on our lives. I know there is one time in my life when I was really wondering where God was. I couldn't see His hand. But as I prayed about it and thought about it more, as I was able to look at the big picture, I was able to see His hand in my life so clearly, that He really is there helping us all along the way. The second thing that has really helped me, and that I've grown to have a better understanding of, is that His plan is perfect. So we're all here on this earth for a reason, and to become, so we can have the opportunity to become more like our Heavenly Father. And He knew that we couldn't do it on our own. And so that's why He gave us His Son, Jesus Christ, to help us. But in this life, things are not easy. There's so much that happens in the world that just it's hard to understand why. But one thing I've come to understand is that this is a perfect place for us to learn how to have real faith, real hope, and real love, which the scriptures refer to as charity. Now I want to read this verse, so I'm gonna try with my limited eyesight read this. But it says, and charity, which the scriptures say is the pure love of Christ. And charity suffereth long, and is kind, envieth not, and is not puffed up, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, and rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Wherefore, if ye have not charity, ye are nothing. For charity never faileth. Wherefore, cleave unto charity, which is the greatest of all. So, there's no way that we could learn these things if we didn't have to go through hard things. And so I have learned that, like I said, that we are children of God. He loves us, that we have potential, that He will help us, and that His plan is perfect in helping us to become what He knows we can become. And so I just wanted to share with you all that yes, we can do hard things, and life is still good and wonderful. And I wanted to share this message with everyone. Thank you for listening and spending this time with me. So I wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And in that spirit, I just want to say I am so thankful for my family. My husband, like I mentioned earlier, is the most kind, loving. He's so good to me, and I am just so grateful for him and all he does for me. I'm also grateful for my children, my 4 kids. They mean the world to me. I really do have some of the best kids out there, and I'm so grateful for them. In the spirit of family, this Thanksgiving, I'm going to go to Utah and spend it with my family, and I'm going to be able to see my little sister Aubrey along with the rest of my family. And Aubrey is at the very last stages of this disease and is not doing so well. So I'll be able to share some of that experience with all of you. So happy Thanksgiving. Until then.